Thank you.
What a great thing to be on a team. Yeah. Okay. So I'm here in Mexico City, and I'm fully out here with you for any questions. You can ask me anything about anything in the next 1 hour and a half, and I will do my best to create a space where the answers can come up. Hello, Verena.
Hi,
Verena. Hi. Does anyone have a question?
I have a question, Vera. I was asking to Christina and said maybe I will ask to Vera. This thing that came up in the last Rage Club Space Holder training, when Anko was saying something about holding space with also with your gremlin, like, and also with box, like how, and was tricky for me how box can hold space. And this is a question about also in a coaching session, like how my box can, be in contact with this in this session with the other person.
Yes. So how your box is a program. It's like a dead part. And it's in the purpose or the point is not to let go, like the box is bad or not have a box. But you can use, or the way that I use my box to be in contact is to know first. I discovered inside and outside the mechanics of my own box. I know how it works. I know, just like a car. This is where the transmission is. This is where the engine is. This is a part with the oil. This is the connector, and to know what happens with my car, and then I can adjust it. Oh, this thing is missing. The bulb is gone. If you know how your box, whatever part of your box that you have power over. You have power of ignoring. Sometimes my box is freaking out because I'm at the edge of my box and my box is going like, we're all gonna die. This is gonna be bad. And I can just go, thank you, box. I'm not gonna pay attention to you. And I'm present. My box is freaking out over here and I'm in contact with you. And actually I've used this box freaking out over here as a great wake-up call, an alarm that I'm in the sweet spot of transformation, that I'm not saying things from I know what they are. I know this has worked, and I'm keeping things I'm keeping the space safe and understandable. I know that something else is going to come out of my mouth because I've had experience of this. So this is one way of using box to be in contact as an alarm. What about you guys? I want to also hear about you guys. If you have, meaning this is not the authority that knows everything. This is a group intelligence. You guys have experience, but you also have archetypal lineages and bright principles and fears and sadnesses and angers that have wisdom. So if you have a hint, please say it.
The way that I've been discovering to use the box is, as much as I know my box, it's more easily to get contact with the person and to discover when the person is speaking with the box, for example. Or one thing that I'm learning use my gremlin more conscious also is to press button in another person box. So then something come up and the process started to happen because of this. So for example, I'm holding space for a woman that have a lot of sensibility about noise. And this is stories that come from her box. And the way that I use my box to do that, it's my box have something to annoying, like not, actually this is more my gremlin to press the button in a way of annoying. And I proposed to her to make noises so then she could access the emotion. And then when I started to do that, she started to go into the emotion more, and the fear comes up, and the process started to unfold. So yeah, it's like I've been using as this tool of box, the tool of box of tools that I can grab it and to use in a session. It's not every time, but sometimes it's useful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's also, you use your box when you're scanning for the box of another person. You use your box. You can use your box to do that, because all the clarity that I don't know if you've heard this distinction or this kind of way of speaking, that when you're pointing at someone, because you can see something in them, there's 3 fingers pointing back at you, which means that you have it, even in the box and being practice, where there's you scan the box and you get feedback on the box, and you scan the being, you feedback on the being. It means that you see it because you've experienced it. There's part in you that has this. So you can use the box to scan your own box, to scan what is the thing that's happening in the box of your client. What is the rule? What is the thoughtware that they're using? What is the thoughtware that they're using to say these things? And you can put it on the table. I have a suspicion that you have this thoughtware operating right now that I know and you do not know. Is this going on for you? And the person can say yes or no. And so, which would be a kind of a modified version of Gabriella's like hitting a button. You are creating a crack. You're using your scalpel, your knife, to go into the thing that is active, into the thoughtware that is active in that moment, and you question it. Because most people would use it completely unconscious, or they do not. When I mean use it completely unconscious, is they do not recognize it as thoughtware. They recognize it as reality, but it is not reality. It is just thoughtware. So that's one way also to do that.
I think of the session we had with Devin, where the first impulse and the second impulse and the third impulse, like those probably came from our box. So another way I'm thinking that I can use my box to hold space is to know that this is from my box, and then to look for something else.
Yeah. Do you have enough, Marina?
Yes.
To continue.
No, I had this image right now when you said about cracks, that the more we know that our mechanism, and also this dead thing that we know, the more we are also open to.
Can you
to
say
crack?
Can you say
the more the more I am able to help to crack this box of the client.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because I know how it works, the mechanism.
Yeah. And have you learned to do mimetic engineering? Did you guys do mimetic engineering here?
Yes.
Yeah.
So that starting, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. So this is using your box also. It's you need to use your box to really go slowly into each step of how the construct goes, and not jump. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Next question.
Quick question. Hello, Vera. It's along these lines. I was with somebody who is a counselor. She's a social worker, and she described to me all the things that she longs for and is sad about. And then she said, but she does things like she goes hiking, and she does things that are self-care for her. And I brought back up that this was an opportunity for her here and now with me to really experience her sadness. And she basically said, you don't think I'm feeling my feelings right now? And it was like, oh, well, I mean, I knew she was feeling some feelings, but my impulse was that she was not feeling, you know what I mean? She was talking about it and demonstrating it, but she wasn't really feeling it. And I guess I have a question about mimetically following that. Like, how would I bring that in, bring my noticing in?
So what was your intention? And are you talking about you were in a medic engineering session with them, or what kind of
No,
session do you have?
possibility coaching. Just,
Possibly.
I mean, I'm just starting with whatever comes up, whatever. Yeah, I don't frame it.
Mhm. So what I'm hearing is that you're in a possibility coaching session, and the woman was saying a lot of things, and that you noticed that she wasn't feeling much. And so you said, this is a space for you to feel your sadness. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I wasn't there. I don't know what you said before or after, or how much she knows about possibility coaching. But one way, what you got basically was her gremlin. You know, like, do you recognize that? Are you saying that I'm not feeling my feelings, or do you think I'm not, or are you making an assumption? This kind of like slight attacks.
Yeah,
And
I was thinking of it as the second level of the elevator on vacuum learning.
well, that is a completely different procedure. It would start
Okay.
with question.
Yeah.
Well, you can say, you know, see, she assumed what you said as I'm not feeling like I'm wrong. I'm doing something wrong. I'm not feeling my feelings. And you're telling me that I'm not feeling my feelings. And so there's already a resistance in the space.
Yeah.
And so this is a thing. I'm sorry about the noise. There's quite a bit of noise. So if you
No,
hear
it's
it,
okay.
no,
It's okay.
yeah,
We're here.
okay.
Yeah.
So, and you have a lot of resistance. Be really careful about saying what is the experience of your client. It's really dangerous to say this is what's going on for you, or this is, to make assumptions. You can really navigate into the space, into what are you feeling right now, and you invoke the experience of her feeling instead of, hey, this is a space for feeling feelings, or for feeling your sadness. So making moves that are not directly, but if they're indirectly, they call in the space that you have experienced that could work, or as an experiment. You call in the space so that they can go there themselves. So in a way, possibility coaching does, you don't make anything happen. You make moves to invoke the part of that person that already is wanting to come out and express. And you take things, you say things, or ask questions, or put things on the table so that the person goes there by themselves. And this is what is the biggest difference in possibility coaching with a lot of different coachings, is that it's not solution focused, is experience focused. The client goes on a journey, and you accompany the client to a journey in themselves where they can experience more perspective, more space, more possibility. Okay. And so that would be a move that I would do instead. It would be to say, okay, what are you feeling right now? And she would say, well, I'm feeling this and this and this. Okay. Would you let that feeling come up a little bit more? And so you're with that person. And now let's say that you said, this is a space for sadness, and then she's blocked it. She's she's already at war with you, because now she's disagreeing with your statement. And when you have an agreement or a disagreement in the energetic space, the space is in a conflict. That means the person is not in their experience, they're in an adaptive relationship, either adaptive or rebellious relationship with you, but they're not in themselves. And so you would need to dismantle that first. And one way you can do it is you can totally take responsibility and say, I'm sorry, I made an assumption that this was happening. What is really happening for you? And that means, as a space holder, you completely die first. It's not about saying, I'm sorry, I made an assumption. To not do anything, no move from I am right. Okay. In fact, I would love that, it's a really one of the most powerful researches that you can do as possibility coaches is to go into the research of the difference, the distinction between having clarity and being right. And so if you guys do each one an article about what you've discovered about the distinction of, I have clarity about this, I can see clearly this going on, and I'm right, this is going on, this is so. And if you can find that distinction, you're going to become exponentially much higher quality coaches, but also human beings, because it's a huge difference between having clarity and being right. Yeah, go ahead.
Could you repeat that distinction? Because you're cracking up a little bit on my line. I don't know if it's my line is bad or your line, but anyway, could you just repeat that?
I can. The distinction, I am inviting you to make a strong research so that you can even write an article about your experience of the distinction between having clarity, seeing really scanning, seeing something clearly, having this distinction, having clarity about something, and being right about something. They're two completely different things. Like, there are two different purposes. They create totally different results, and that they can look inside the same. And if you do this research and you write the article, it will grow enough matrix, a huge bunch of matrix for you to become more compassionate and powerful and clear space holders and human beings.
Thank you, Vera.
Thank you. And so I'm going to go back to the move, because you were just right. I'm saying this is a space for sadness, and it lands as I'm right and client is wrong. And so you have to deconstruct that completely in yourself. And for that, you need to die. Your rightness needs to be sacrificed. Whatever you do in an authentic form. But without also being less. It's not a performance. It's not like, oh, I'm so sorry, I'm a horrible person, it's not going into the swamp. It's saying, yeah, I made an assumption here. Please tell me, actually, I want to know you better. What is actually going on with you? And that's a neutral way. You don't have to be like, you're better than me. It's just neutral. Put your own stuff on the table and you move on.
Yeah.
And then make moves of, okay, and what else? And could you, what are you feeling right now? I'm feeling the sadness. Okay, would you bring that sadness forward a little bit more in your voice? I can feel it too. And could you express it? Could you bring it forward? Making invitations. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My guess is that most beeps that you're going to get come from an orientation, come from a particular thoughtware in you. And I know that you work in groups, so it would be really great and I know they're probably going to have practice today. It would be really great to, at the end of a practice session, to see, okay, what was the orientation that I was using right now to hold space for this client? It could be, I was just trying to get somewhere. I was thinking about me instead of them. I was worried about how I would perform instead of them. And to really identify, everybody will have about 3 to 4 main hang-ups, main orientations that are going to be a little bit difficult to come out. And you can have practices for each of them so you can gain a little bit more space. So for some people will be being adult, or some people will be, I need to say something, I need to fill the space, or I need to get somewhere. And so just identify the 3 to 5 main ones to work on them. And they will have some thoughtware also, and some emotions there also to go through an EHP. Next question.
What's some gold from the coaching, the space holding you've been doing lately? What's really like come forward for you as gold lately?
The thing that makes more gold, I've been having an experience in my coaching that more of my bright principles speak than anything that I know that works, or something that I've said before to another person, even if they're asking about a research that I spend a lot of time in. And so it feels almost like cheating, because it's not really me who's saying anything. It's my bright principles that are saying something, and I'm kind of there, like listening also and seeing it work, and it feels like magic. Just but what I can say is to completely radically rely on the impulses that are coming out, and to relax in that. There's a kind of, I used to, when I started speaking from the unknown, when I was starting to do possibility coaching, speaking from the unknown, and just saying what was coming out, I had to do some kind of pressure. I would just start speaking, and I would be like, okay, and just say things. And at some point that blocked the actual bright principles from speaking. And so right now I hold space with a kind of relaxedness. I'm relaxed in my expectations, and I'm at the edge. There's a tension with being at the edge of the known. So there's tension and relaxation, and absolutely no pressure, and something will start coming. And the thing that I need to do in that relaxation of expectation, and that tension of the edge of the known, is to keep contact with the client. If I lose contact with the client, and I'm in contact with me or with my problem or my situation, then something else comes, some good ideas come. But if I'm in contact with the person, it just just new words come out, or things that my box, I can already see my box going like, what are you talking about? That makes no sense. That makes no sense. And I just say them anyway. And it seems to work. It really seems to work. And so the hint, or the gold for me, is this relaxation and complete trust and reliance that it will come out. And I don't have to pressure it. I don't have to force it out, and it doesn't have to look of a certain way. And it will require practice also. It will require practice to have the next word come fluidly, or the next person, or the next practice.
you.
Would give us an example, like with a client that happened, that like something that you just felt that the bright principal was talking?
Yes. Here, all since the beginning of this call, it's been like that. And I couldn't tell you what I said even. I couldn't tell you like what exact words I said and how they landed. What I can say was that I was really connected to the space. I was connected, energetically connected to the necessity of that person. And it's not even the known necessity of that person. It's the unknown necessity. So some people will come, I want more possibilities about this. And one of the blocks even for their possibilities that they think they know what is blocking. Have you ever had this experience that you're holding space? Possibilitators are the worst sometimes because they think they know what their process is about, and it blocks because they're tight. Okay, but I'm not committing to anything that the client says to me. I hear the story and I hear the thing that they say that they need. I hear the victim story sometimes, or whatever story it is, and I do not commit to the story. I commit to the energetic, emotional, physical, and intellectual sensation that they have that causes them to call me. And that's where I'm like, I jack in there, like I connect there, and that's where I speak from. And sometimes I have to make that space a little bigger. So I will say things, I concentrate on that, I focus on that experience, which is usually kind of a painful experience. And I say things to let that experience rattle, a little bit and become a little bit more consciously present in the client. And then the client starts speaking from the authentic necessity and not what for that we're thinking. Does anyone know what I'm talking about? Okay. Jesse, could you say something more about that?
My practice around it right now is to be continuously letting go of what I like, to be continuously aware of what I'm attaching to as I go. I have this kind of rubber hand that just grabs out and sticks. And so I've been watching that. This is the practice for me right now, is watching that rubber hand grab out and stick onto something and then loosening it. And then in loosening it, it's like a whole bunch of things that weren't possible then start to emerge as possibilities. And it's also profoundly uncomfortable. I mean, what I'm really aware of is the fear that causes me to grab onto the thing.
Mm.
And so what it requires is that I sit back into the fear and let go of that. And it's a kind of relaxing, actually. It's kind of a relaxing. I would describe it in similar terms.
What about that the connecting to the source of the pain? Let's say it doesn't need to be like a trauma or anything. When I say source of the pain, it's just the experience and you've all experienced that in yourselves as clients, that there's an urge or an impulse in you that causes you to try to make meaning out of something. And then it causes you like, shit, this meaning doesn't work, and this meaning doesn't work, and I don't know what to do. I'm going to ask for someone. But the thing that originates is an impulse that you don't know what it means yet. How do you, Jesse, hone in that? Like, do you commit to that too?
Well, actually, I don't hone in on it. Mm-hmm. Like what I'm experiencing is an opening up to let go of that, actually. And I'm really, it requires a complete radical trust of the bright principles. Mm-hmm. I showed up here with this purpose, with this. I mean, this beingness of this is who I am, this is what I am, this is everywhere I go, this is what I am. I am love, for example. I am clarity. I am transformation. I'm healing. It's it.
Mm-hmm.
And so relaxing, for me, that kind of relaxing, it just opens the space for the thing to just happen. And then I don't have to understand their necessity at all, or I don't have to hone in on it even. It kind of unfolds by way of the spaciousness that's created.
Mm-hmm.
And then I might not even know or realize that it's now like come bobbed up to the surface, and it's all right in front of us, and I didn't even necessarily even notice that that was happening, or that it needed to be coaxed in any way in order to do that.
Thank you.
It
Does that-
seems to me that you are speaking from emptiness while you are relaxing and not holding on something. You create a space which is actually, it is emptiness.
Are you speaking about Jesse or me?
I'm speaking about you both.
Okay. The experience that I have is that there's a magnetism in the energetic space. And when I connect to the necessity, it's the necessity that it's pulling out the words. But there is a relax, like it's not coming from a library of knowledge that I'm like selecting and going like, oh yeah, I'm going to talk about this thing. Oh yeah, that other thing that I've done before. There is an emptiness, but there's a magnetic pull coming from the necessity of the client. That's what I experience.
So the necessity is pulling something through you, like something that is coming from the bright principles.
Yes, the necessity of the person or the group or the space is pulling out of me, and my job is to get my box out of the way, get my thoughtware out of the way, get the be in enough in a stabilized adult ego state so that and keep connect and keep contact so that the words come out. Yeah, more like an inner plumber, just unblocking the stuff, the gunk that is in the way. And anything else about this? I know it could be it's kind of advanced in a way, because it also, for you guys to be the space through which the bright principles can move in the world, it requires a complete change of orientation in your life. So it's not like, oh, today I'm love, clarity, possibility, creation, and integrity and presence, and today I'm not. It's really a committing to be that those bright principles in the world happens through a series of initiations, of core adulthood initiatory initiations, processes that where you take the stuff, the big stuff out of the way, and really take a stand for reorienting, for giving your life, for really giving your life to these energies, giving your time, your attention. And this cannot be done inauthentically. So it takes years of processes and practices and wearing matrix to also go, my life is not about this kind of comfort, or my life is not about being happy, or my life is not about achieving this. My life is about love happening in the space, clarity happening wherever I am, washing dishes, having a shower, talking with the person in the grocery store. This is, if I am in the space, this bright principle is in the space. And so there's a path. So keep going and keep transforming your ground line and keeping going to initiations. And until you can jack it into your unique archetypal lineage, which is the particular configuration of those bright principles with your mission in the world, like the intersection of those two things with the necessity of echo. And that would be your archetypal lineage.
Thank you, Vera. This is so inspiring. I can really feel energetically what you mean. I can feel it, and I feel like, yeah, it gives me more motivation to keep on continuing this work. And at the same time, I'm like, shit, all the processes that needs to be done, because it sounds so easy and simple, because I completely feel you and understand you. And then I know when I'm there, it's like all these things are still there and it's not moving through me yet. So, yeah.
Well, let me offer you a different perspective about the processes that are in the way. Instead of being obstacles, instead of considering them as, oh, this is all the stuff, so many things that I need to do. What if this is your research? This is actually the thing. What you're going to go through is the thing that you're going to offer your circle, because you've gone through it. Like, everything that I share is because I've gone through it. You know, the gremlin transformation, the decontamination, the ETBs, it's because I've gone through it. And so instead of seeing like, oh, this emotional healing process, it's like, okay, now I have another tool in my belt. Now I have another jewel in my bag to share with others. And so I'm glad that you have, I don't know how many years of processes in the way, because you have how much gold to collect along your path. There you go. You have so much gold to collect to share with others. Yep.
Vera, as you are the resource, one of the major resources about decontamination, I want to invite you to speak a bit about that topic, or that the distinctions, the necessary distinctions you think a possibility coach needs to have in his or her backpack as distinctions, and also as a research field, of course. What is your perspective on that?
Yes. So what you can recognize in other people is what you have recognized in yourself. And so if you want to be really keen and recognizing, really sharp and recognizing contamination, you need to really go through the decontamination yourself, so that you can really notice. We all kind of, there's some things that are obvious, more obvious than others. So the contamination is when children are growing, and they're growing their adult ego state. They're constructing their adult ego state very slowly, unconsciously, through their relationship to life. So when they're children, they cannot take responsibility, so they cannot move into the adult ego state. When the children grow up and become teenagers, they can move in and out a little bit of a fuzzy adult ego state, because most of them are not taking authentic responsibility. They're learning to take responsibility, but it's kind of enforced on them. Make your bed, go get this, you have to, deliver this assignment on time so that you have integrity, but it's kind of forced. The motivation is external, but it's still, that's why it's not authentic responsibility, but it's to grow. It's for the matrix to grow so that adult ego state can be built and inhabited. Now, we live in a society, most people live in a society or grew up in a society that disallows taking responsibility, disallows saying what I want and making it happen, because it's so constricted by rules and assumptions, and that really block people from having their own authority and power. And so in the growing up, most of us, I'm in it too, have developed an adult ego state contaminated with pretense meaning pretending. covered with pretense about what adult is. And these pretenses, basically survival strategies that belong to a kind of state of an orientation. It could be child orientation or gremlin orientation or parent orientation. Okay, an ego state is just an orientation. It's a state. It's not you are one person, but you can slip into an orientation of seeing things this way or seeing things this way. And so each of the ego states, there's a different there's a kind of unique orientation. And you can distinguish, you can learn to distinguish and to scan and to recognize the contamination if you have a real reference point about what authentic adulthood means. So it's not a set of behaviors. It's not a rule thing. It's not that looking at Clinton and how he acts in this way. So this is what adult is. So or looking at what another person would do. And this is adult, even though those things help to form, to navigate. But if you don't have an experience in yourself of what the free and natural adult, which is somewhat relaxed, inhabits the space that they inhabit without making themselves small or making themselves big or compensating or retrieving. It's a kind of, if I was to compare it to sitting on a chair, there's a way that you can sit and you're out of balance because you're too much in the front, or that you're sitting too much in the back and your presence is not full here. There's a way that you can sit right in the middle where you are here. And it's clear and it's relaxed, it's not contrived. If this is the thing that is the most important, if you are trying to notice contamination, is that you have a reference point. Because everything outside that reference point will be contamination. So the contamination is tricky because the client or the person who is contaminated does not recognize it because it's in their space. But you can recognize it if you experience adult ego state, and you've experienced how it feels, how it feels in you, in your energetic body, in your emotional body, in your intellectual, everything, even in the archetypal body. And then when you're with a person and they're not adult, but they're thinking that they're adults, they are moving as if they are in adult ego state, there's a kind of dissonance that happens. And so there's a multitude of ways of recognizing this. Some people, there are some coaches, decontamination coaches, have it's a taste. It's like something tastes, that person's not being authentic. It tastes weird. I have it mostly in my kind of stomach, like a kind of a weird, subtle sensation of disgust. It's not, that doesn't come from a judgment. It's like something is off. Like something is off. Like a food is not completely. It's like gone, is off. Some people get a kind of goosebumps on an area of their energetic body of, wait a second, this is not you. Some part here is not you. And so there's basically, I don't know, like we've identified in the last call, I've identified like 7, 8 different ways that the energetic body, the physical body, the emotional body gets alert, there's contamination here. And so how many of you are with a decontamination coach doing decontamination right now? Not enough. Thank you. Not enough. So why is it important, this decontamination? Because it's the person, you can only grow matrix. If you don't grow matrix, new distinctions don't land. Okay, distinctions and processes can only land in a developed matrix. Okay, it's like and you'll see this with time, that sometimes some processes that you have with a client, they feel they go through the process and it doesn't land. Like the person's life does not change. They cannot continue this work. And it's usually because they do not have enough matrix for the process that they've been through. It's not a problem. They just need to do practices and experiments to grow matrix so that this process lands. So without matrix, new distinctions cannot land. They do not have space for them to land. They just go over the person's head. Their mind can understand it, but it doesn't land in their whole bodies. You grow matrix by going through the quadrant conscious incompetence to conscious competence. Do you remember the learning spiral? Conscious incompetence, you got lots of beeps, you're terrible at doing this, and you do a practice, you practice until you're moving into conscious competence. It's in this stress of the conscious practice that you grow matrix. It's not about reading about it or thinking about it, it's practice. This grows, especially, this is why even in labs and trainings, we do things that people are like, but I don't know how to do it. Doesn't matter, it will grow matrix because you're looking for the first time in a territory that you've never looked before, and that builds matrix. Okay.
Who does this? Sorry.
Yeah, go.
Yeah, who does this contaminate? Who are decontamination coaches? Who are that?
Right now, the decontamination coaches are Ana Norambuena and myself. And Christina is also doing that. She's in the apprentice and she's doing that. And we're going to have a new apprentice soon, which is Dagmar, who's a trainer. And I also want to tell you that the decontamination and the gremlin transformation they're becoming specialities of trainers, because it does require a whole bunch of skill set. And maybe this will change, but right now the only people that we saw that can really hold this level of scanning and being with the gremlin and is people who have a lot of processes, and it really works with trainers. So these are the people so far. And to start the decontamination, you would need to have a really good handle on gremlin, meaning that you have the diet that is working. They're not fighting your gremlin, and that you have a relationship with your gremlin that you say, hey, gremlin, and it talks to you back, and you can negotiate intimacy with your gremlin. So if you don't have any of these things, or if you're like, not sure if you know your gremlin, or like, what is gremlin, then go to a gremlin transformation, chapter 1, space. I hold these spaces, but also Ana Norambuena and Tristan are holding one before the end of the year to start. And so and I want to say that Ana and I are holding a decontamination for child-adult dynamic in the beginning of the new year. And so only people who have done the gremlin transformation can attend. And then later
child adult or child parent?
Child parent. Yes, sorry. Child parent can attend. I'm going to give you all these informations too afterwards. And then in March, we're going to do the gremlin decontamination, a space for that. And it's basically, it's not that after that space you're done. No, after that space you have just enough tools to start. Yeah.
And what is the distinction between the January one and the March one?
Yeah, the January one is about decontaminating child and parent, okay, because they're very much together. And then the March one is about the gremlin decontamination.
It's the gremlin one. Okay.
Yeah.
I got it. Thank you.
Yeah.
I look at the website, and there was the gremlin process was described as an 8-week process, and I saw Tristan just announced something that is a 5-week. Could you just explain how this all fits together?
Yes. So the different space holders do different processes. And so that's why it's not like we recommend, even in the decontamination, that people go through different space holders. The decontamination, the gremlin transformation part that I hold is very much the beginning and getting to know what gremlin really is. And what Tristan mainly holds is the part of being with the diet, choosing a diet and learning about gremlin through keeping a feeding schedule and keeping a diet. And different people need different things. What I discovered that I needed for myself and many other facilitators that I met was that people had an idea what gremlin was, but they didn't experience the gremlin. They couldn't experience the gremlin really. And so the work that I started doing when I started doing decontamination coaching was I realized that people were not at the level of decontamination. They had to first do gremlin transformation. So I held 3-month spaces for people to transform the gremlin. And now I made them into a kind of a 6-week, sometimes 7, sometimes 5-week groups where people can transform their gremlin. I share all the tools. Instead of doing the coaching program, which is 3 months, they're in teams and they do it with themselves. And that is basically before putting the gremlin on a diet, is really just pure self-observation, a lot of emotional healing processes, and a lot of distinctions, new distinctions. It's experiencing really your gremlin. And I'm going to do one in January. I'm going to start one in January because I had a lot of people asking, and I have some apprentices that want to learn how to hold this space.
And
so it will be different.
Yeah, this is called then, when it's before the diet, it's gremlin transformation, or how do you call it?
I call it gremlin transformation, but I call it chapter 1.
Okay.
And maybe the name is going to change for chapter 0, but because it's really like, it's after that chapter, you're ready to start doing a diet. This is what, we're the possibility management game world has a lot of researchers, and we discover great things that, like, I discover a big part of gremlin transformation that nobody had ever touched. And Tristan was doing a whole different part, and they are not mutually exclusive. They're complementary. Yeah. And then I'm in the process, because I'm taking a stand for that speciality. I'm in the process of creating a space holder training so that there's like, this is this and this is this, and people can do both, can be empowered to do all.
And after that, there's this training of decontamination, the child and the parent ego states, and then you separate those, the child and the parent, or from the child, parent, adult. I don't understand that.
So some people will have more to the surface or more intensely the child or parent ego state contamination. And they're very much together. The parent and the child have a very particular dynamic. So we do both. And we separate the decontamination of gremlin ego state because it's different processes. And so it depends. And if you're wanting to decontaminate your adult ego state, and you sign up, Anna or I would have an interview with you and say, okay, which one do you think is the most contaminated? And then we would ask you a few questions and just to see, okay, I think right now what is most ready is this one, or no, actually do the gremlin. And it doesn't matter to do the gremlin first or do the child ego state first or parent. I know a lot of people start with child and parent because it's kind of easier, because they don't have a lot of experiential distinction about gremlin. But it doesn't need to be so. So it will depend on the person.
Okay, so you can start the child, parent ego state decontamination without the gremlin part.
Without the gremlin ego state decontamination part.
Okay.
But you still need to do gremlin transformation.
Okay.
You still need to have a real, because that's going to block. That's what we observe, is that blocks process of decontamination.
Yeah. Okay. I got it.
And let me just finish on one thing, which is, why is it important to do decontamination? Why could it possibly be important that we insist on this? It's because growing matrix can only happen in the adult ego state, in the pure, uncontaminated adult ego state. So if a person has only this space inside of them, that's the rate that they're going to grow matrix. Okay. And so to have gremlin transformation, more practices, more initiations, more decontamination, it starts becoming exponential, the growth of the person, the more adult they have. They just start flying. So this is why we insist. I insist, Clinton and Chloe insist in the decontamination. And it's a process that takes 2-3 years to have not perfect adult ego state. I'm still in the decontamination, by the way. I started in 2019. It's never completely complete, but it's just enough that you can be stabilized in the adult ego state to deliver your value, to deliver your next thing. And your next thing. Okay, this is not about perfectionism. This is about having enough, good enough for the next step. And then you want to do a next step, and it's like, okay, now building it more for the next and the next and the next.
Thank you.
Thank you for allowing me to speak about that.
So crucial.
Thank you for speak about it.
I have two things that I'm just sort of sitting with. One is this whole gremlin thing interests me a lot, and I had this experience of like seeing it was a wolf in my case, which was literally like a hole, a shadow. It was like the absence of something, and I was just curious about, and I think, wow, that makes a lot of sense in some way if it is a shadow. And I was curious if you have encountered that particular experience before. And then also it really touched me when you talked about this, how did you put it, with this, the pretense, because it's a bit of a difficulty I'm having with this whole game world, that I'm often left with this sense of a small disconnect, that what is going on is somehow what do you call, like play acting, or there's a gap, and I wonder what it is. I'm doing some coaching, some stuff, and having good results with that. So it's not that, but it's just this sense of a small, subtle, but quite significant divide between what I experience and what is going on. And I'm just having a hard time figuring out what the exact source of that is and how to deal with it.
Can you say, so you are experiencing a gap between what you experience and what is going on. That's what I heard you say. What could you say a little bit more about that? What is going on in your life, or what is going on in your coaching practice? Say a little bit more.
It's, I don't know, sometimes with the processes that I'm in, I'm having a difficulty relating to it as being real. Like there's a level of pretense going on that is making some level of my bullshit detector pinging, and making me withdraw a little bit because it feels unsafe and unreal, and there's something going on, but I have a hard time naming what it is, and I become uncertain.
I get it. So it's about your experience of process, your own process, or like emotional healing processes, or even sometimes some initiations. Yeah. That it's like, this is kind of fake, or this is performing.
Well, not just in my own case, but also with others. I mean, it's like this sort of this, and I just, there was something that felt very real to me when you were talking about that, and so that touched me, and I was like, it was a bit of a relaxation into the space that you shared, where I didn't feel that, and so I noticed it, something that I have noticed in a lot of contexts, which make me withdraw a little bit, and so this sort of make me want to come in and say, this feels real in a way that is nourishing.
Yes. One of the things that I've been bringing most to my trainings, my ATVs and labs, is getting people to the experiential reality, to really to their experience, even to their nameless experience, because that's the only thing that's real. Everything else is story. And yes, there is, it's one of the main survival strategies is to pretend or to perform, or there's a gap, that there's a thing that is not completely. There's some things that work like magic, they have amazing, incredible results, and some that it feels like a little forced. I've seen that in people, seen that in clients, I've seen that in myself too.
Can I say something additional to
Yeah.
this?
Yeah.
I think also it's a little bit like the whole game world of possibility management sometimes feel a little bit forced to me. Like there's a lot of concepts about how things are that somehow I feel my being is trying to have to fit into, but it doesn't really always fit. That is the kind of sensation.
Yeah. I mean, one of the dangers of looking at possibility management as exactly of seeing concepts without experiencing them is that it becomes forced and a new rule and a new thing that we have to follow. So consciousness is bad, unconsciousness is wrong, gremlin is bad, or whatever, four feelings is good and old map of feelings is bad, all that kind of thinking. But really, a new map becomes a distinction when it is lived. And until it is lived, it is a concept. And as long as it's a concept, it is not real. So I could totally see this happening, for example, for a lot of people in the beginning. Because, for example, the ETB, gosh, it has so many new maps. It's like impossible. I've never seen anyone get all the maps in their experiential reality. We usually say it's about 20%. And that's why we encourage people to go about 5 times, because 20% times 5 is 100%. And to go through the experiences over and over again and not believe in the concepts, not believe at all in the concepts. And sure, some people do believe and then they speak from their belief, but this is not, I would say that's not possibility management. And so really do your practice, follow your own unique path, take your own authority and go into the experience instead of the concept. Okay, so this is exactly why I created the gremlin transformation the way that I did, so that people are not in the concept of what gremlin is, and they're in the experience of what their gremlin is and how it goes and what does it like, what's their feeding habits, without any good or bad, just it is so. But it's so challenging for most people in possibility management when they're starting to be in the experiential reality of the maps or of the distinctions, because we did not learn to be in life. We did not learn to be in life. We learned to be in concepts. I put this here, and most of you unconsciously go glass. Glass is a word. It's not the experience of seeing this. To be in the experience of what I'm doing right now, of holding this object in front of me, it's a completely different game, different planet than saying this is a glass. This is a glass, it's the concept, game over. There's no question, there's no more experience. And so I've seen that so much, particularly I see you, Gabriela, I saw particularly in the United States, but not only, this super highly conceptualized versions of possibility management. And it's not possibility management. It's just concept. The distinction is not a concept. It's, for example, a distinction, you have the experience of an apple that is, you can eat and it tastes of a certain way. And you have the experience of an apple that we call rotten, right? You have the experience, Aeon, right? But you didn't learn it in a book. You know it. You just know it because you've experienced it. You probably already have eaten put your mouth into a rotten apple and it tasted of a certain way and you didn't like it, or it didn't taste that the way of a good apple. This is the experience of the distinction. You can now, for the rest of your life, distinguish a good apple from a rotten apple, or an edible apple for an unedible apple. And it doesn't come of a concept. It comes from experience. So each of the distinctions in possibility management that are offered need to be experienced. Otherwise, they're just concept. They're just dogma. And that's what makes the forced thing. The thing is, the matrix for the new distinctions to be experienced cannot be built if people don't experience it. And that's where this pretense exists, because it's so much easier to pretend, to act as if I'm an adult, to act as if I'm feeling. It's so much easier than actually to do it. And so the decontamination puts all these behaviors, subtle and unsubtle, on the table for the person to really, to gain actual lived experience of their lives. Is that a little clearer?
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I would also add to
Yes.
that possibility management is a young culture. It's a young culture in the sense that, you know, I don't know the people here, but most of the PM spaces I'm in, it's like we've been practicing this and embodying and experiencing these distinctions for, you know, maybe a few years. And that this has been around only for 40 some years. And that the thing about possibility management is not a locked set of distinctions either. It is an evolving set of distinctions that grows when somebody discovers something new. And that, for me, it's like there's a lot of enriching and deepening that has yet to take place, that will, I think, take place in this. And with that comes the deepening and the kind of deepening into an authentic experiential context. I don't know, that's a story I have about it, that's possible.
Thanks, Jesse. Gabriela, you had something. Was it a question?
Yeah, it's a question that in some ways connected with what you're speaking now. Like I'm interested to listen from you what you've been discovering about getting people to experience spiritual reality. Like how, as a space holder, you create the space so then they can be experienced and not as a concept. Because I have this thing in me that it's so easily to go to the mind when I'm holding space and bringing distinction with distinction. And most of the time, it's not every time, but most of the time I'm noticing that it's not landing. Like I'm speaking, the person sometimes even nodding, but this nodding is not landing because the nodding is just the mind, like I understand. And I'm really curious. This is something that bring aliveness to me about how to create this, how to getting people in the experiential reality. If the point of the origin of culture, the modern culture, is the knowing, is these concepts, and what you discover in these last ETBs labs that you have been holding about that you are focused on this lens in this perspective.
So you're asking, it's interesting because you're asking me to answer a question from my mind. Do you get it? You're asking, you have an incredible question for research. And you're asking me to say what I have done to create the experience. And I would then give you like, oh, I've done this practice and I've done this thing and I put this exercise and then what would that create for you, Gabriela? You would go, yeah, that's a cool, yeah, I'm gonna even write it down. I can do that same thing. But it would not create in you the experience of you doing it. Right? And so this would be one of the questions that I would not answer. So I'm not going to answer that question because it would destroy the research for you. Instead, I would ask you, what are 3 things that you're going to do this week to be in experiential reality with other people?
I want to share that I feel sad now. because I feel sad because this is what I'm creating and I care about that. And what do you do during this week? The first thing that's coming is about asking things that I never asked before. And yeah, because I noticed that I think before I speaking the next word. You do the experiment to look in their eyes, because I'm noticing, especially when I'm looking my recordings, that I look so much to the up when I'm speaking. And the speed that I'm speaking when I'm looking to you is differently now. So I will do consciously more that this week. And I want to ask for a possibility for another practice about that for this week.
Can you experience yourself breathing right now? Would you go? Everybody could do that, because you're all breathing, but you're not in the experience of breathing. When you're nodding, you leave the experience of breathing, because then your brain goes, I got it, that's it, yeah, and then you're off. You're more in your brain than in your experience. Just breathe. Just be in the experience of everything that happens when you breathe, all of it. And there's the physical part of the breathing, but there's other parts too. Be in the experience of breathing in the energetic body. Don't go search for it in your mind. Just go to the experience of breathing in the energetic body. And also do that with the emotional body. Go to the experience of breathing that exists in the emotional body. Without words, without naming what it is, just be in the experience of it. Okay. This could be a practice that you do when you're going into concepts, when you're thinking. You just go into the experience of what you're experiencing. And it could be breathing, or it could be sitting, or it could be having an itch on your scalp, or tears running down your cheek. Just be in the experience of what you're experiencing. The advantage of being in the experience of what you're experiencing is that you can be in the small now without story. And that brings possibility for so many different stories about what's happening, because you're not in your box. This is a practice to go on your research of how to hold space for people to experience life directly.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do you want to say anything about that? Doesn't sound like a hell yes. Okay. Thanks, Gabriela, for going there. I want to ask Charlotte. Hello, Charlotte. You are muted, just so you know. So what questions do you have about possibility coaching?
I have questions, and right now I don't have any question that has dawned on me to ask you or to ask the space.
So a lot of the times we don't recognize questions because they're not smart or something, or they're not in the mind yet. But the questions come from a pain. So what is the pain that you have about being a possibility coach?
Mm. I noticed that a lot of people that are my friends are coming to me, that I already have a context with them that is like kind of upper world energy. And then they get there and I notice I'm like can't figure out who to be, because suddenly they don't know me like this, but this is how I can show up now. So I show up as a possibilitator, and then really quickly I feel a lot of fear of that I don't want to let them down, and it's like a higher level that like I owe them because they're also my friends prior or something like this.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, and then this one friend is like, there's an urgency that keeps coming through me when I'm in the session with her, and when I heard some of this shares today about like relaxing, I was like, oh my God, the whole time on the call with her, I'm like far from relaxed. So yeah, I feel the pain of like how to be with them, and somehow I feel afraid to also like show myself in the space, that I have to like be this person so that they will go to the doorway, and if I break character then it's not working, or yeah, it's strange. And then it's like, okay, when we're not in sessions, then they want to hang out or they want to have a voice message, and then I'm like, am I still I don't know. I'm wondering, like, maybe it's better to send my friends to other people. If you have any experience with this, I would, yeah, be really happy to hear.
Thank you. The first thing that I want to say is you can only hold space from where you are. And so if you put on a thing, then it's the thing that's holding space, and not the space in you to hold space. And I think there's a spark that just came out. There's like, you need space to hold space. And it's really, I haven't read it completely, but it just makes so much sense to me. It's if I put my box is a box that loves to be like write and to teach. And so I would put something on and then give some advice and stuff. And I don't think that that's what you do, but that the thing of putting on something would block the natural tendency, the natural because the bright principles are natural forces that already exist in you. So you don't have to force them. That you already were born with them. If you're asleep, they're working. They're, you don't have to do anything for the bright principles to be there. Of course, you can block them and you can pretend and stuff, and you can like let them shine even more. And so first recommendation would be to move into the orientation of you're experimenting things. This works, this was a bit weird, and you're trying new things, new ways of being in a space with coaching, and it will not feel authentic for a while, because the authentic that was feeling was what you've known. That's the known ways of relating. And so any new way of relating will feel a little skewed or inauthentic at first. And the space of relating of coaching is completely different from the space of relating of friendship, where I would, I'm like looking back, because nowadays I'm not saying that I'm a coach the whole time, but I'm the space through which my bright principles exist, whether I'm talking with a friend or where I'm talking with in a formal coaching session. And I'm interested in the things that I'm interested, which for some people, like for example, Dawe, he was in the United States with me in this transformational tour in the US. And one of the comments that he gave me was like, gosh, you really are like a trainer the whole time. And I thought you were going to be something else, like on your weekends or something. And I'm like, well, it's not a thing that I put on. I'm really interested in all of this. And so you are who you are. You are the space of letting the bright principles come out of you is not a space of putting on a personality of coach. And it could be not damaging, but it could block the natural way of speaking, of the natural way of your bright principles, which is not your box, to speak. And until you really let that fountain flow, it's going to feel completely unauthentic. Now, the thing that I suspect is that when you go into the hangout space, it does not have a clear purpose. Hang out with what purpose? And so then if it doesn't have a purpose, it will have an unconscious purpose, which will have some kind of, I don't know, habit or thing that is no longer you anymore. Or there's an old part of you or an unconscious part of you that is playing. And it might be familiar. But you can even be in a French space, of hangout space, and have, what is the purpose of me being with my friend right now? Okay, and then decide the purpose is being with them, or the purpose is scanning for his archetypal image. The purpose is being only my bright principle of clarity in the space. You can decide. It does not have to be. You can make authentic researches then. But the thing is that if you don't define what the purpose is, then it will be some kind of unconscious. And it doesn't mean that it's bad, but it will be some kind of old habit that is going to be playing. And a lot of your friends, even though you have a lot of bright principle energy in it, will also have a habituation to you being a person that you're changing. And they're going to try to call back unconsciously, call back that person. And so you can stand in the culture that you are creating for yourself. And it doesn't have to be like the same culture as me or anybody else here in the room, but the culture that you are carefully crafting, that you inhabit with integrity, instead of being drawn to a kind of space, unconscious space. Does that make sense so far?
Yes.
Yeah.
A lot. It really lands. Thank you.
It also helps. I did this with some friends. It also helped to say, hey, when I'm in a formal coaching, I am not your friend. I'm a badass bitch who's gonna kick your ass if I need to. Do you agree? and then they get the shift. Like you basically what you're doing is establishing a context so that their box can rattle a little bit out of the normal space. Okay. Or you can say I'm a sorceress or whatever it is that you want to say, but something that shakes them out of that of the space. Oh, I'm just talking with my friend. Yeah.
Something I've done, Charlotte, is created a separate communication channel for the work I do as a coach with friends. So I don't have the same thread. I have a separate communication thread on Telegram.
Okay. Thank you. That's a great idea.
Yeah. What are you going to do?
What am I going to do? I am going to, all of the people in the friend category, in the next session, I'm going to start by sharing this situation that I'm working with. And then I'm going to propose that we have Telegram for our coaching chat and WhatsApp for friend chat or outside of the coaching context. And I'm gonna, this, what you said is like helping me in so many more ways about like setting the context for hangout space, because I'm so used to like this just hangout culture. And I always have felt so dissatisfied by it, and I'm blaming everyone else, like they suck, like this is a shitty hangout space, like nothing's happening. And I'm not showing up with the clarity of what the purpose is for me to be there. So I'm like, okay, outside of my coaching life, I also have to set the purpose. Like it's not, I don't know how I thought I could just do it differently sometimes, like whatever, just no purpose. But I see whenever there's no purpose, it's gremlin, or it's I'm not really fulfilled, or I feel like shit, I'm sad, I feel no connection, I feel like what am I doing? And yeah.
Will you share like one or two like legends of, even legends could be something like it didn't work, it really didn't work, I completely like forgot about it and stuff, but just share the like what you've been doing to the rest of the group, because I think what you're talking about happens with a lot of people here.
Yeah, well, for example, my partner.
No, I mean in the group, like because you're gonna make these experiments from now on,
and then
right?
come back
Yeah.
with like what with the shit and with the gold. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I was gonna just tell you some shit from the past.
No.
We'll leave it there.
Thank you, Charlotte.
Yeah.
Thanks. And so Nicole, I just did that thing, like I just spoke to something in Charlotte. I don't know who I'm talking to, but I just spoke to something in Charlotte and I had no idea. My box was going like, why am I saying these things? They have nothing to do with possibility coaching. And it landed in the original, or a kind of, I don't know if it's really original, but it's a more deep necessity in Charlotte. So just really radically rely on the thing that's coming out of your mouth when you put yourself in the space, instead of your comfort, what your performance, your possibility coach, like instead of that, all those identities, you put yourself in the space of service, completely liquid into that space. It really works. Thank you, everybody, for going on questions and answers. And I'm with you, so I want you to succeed. And if you have any more questions, reach out to me. I give the space back.
Thank you.
Have fun.
And thank you so much, Vera, for this abundance, liquid space. What you poured through you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
I will cut out the part of the decontamination and will send it to you. So because it was amazing, and I want that it goes on to the homepage.
Thank
Cool.
you for doing that.
Cool. Yeah.
So great to have a team.
Yay. Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
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 Good night.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.